So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what drives them forwards. And today, I'm delighted to have with us Nathan Hughes, Managing Director of Restrap. And Nathan, thanks for joining us. And it'd be great if you could just talk a little bit about who you are, what Restrap does, and how it helps its clients.
Yeah, no problem. So Restrap's a cycling luggage manufacturer. So we make everything that basically goes onto a bike. So various kinds of bags, panniers, frame bags, that kind of thing. So originally I started the business in 2010. So it was myself and a sewing machine. And I used to make pedal straps for bicycles out of recycled car seat belts. Hence the name Restrap. So it was kind of a recycled strapping. That was kind of where it came from. So I used to physically climb into cars and cut out the old seat belts and wash them in my mum's washing machine and hang them out in my garden to dry, and then I'd make them in the back bedroom. So it sort of grew from there. And then about 2012, 2013, we went limited, started bringing out a few designs of bags, which were mainly on body bags at the time, so backpacks, things like that, because the touring market in cycling sort of evolved. So the travel by bike is probably, a lot of people are aware, there's a lot more bikes on the road now, so people are looking for different solutions. So we kind of moved into very functional bags, like bags that fit any bike. You don't need the traditional racks or a certain type of bike to fit them, and that was kind of our USP, is that kind of, you buy one bag for every bike. And as anyone who's a cyclist knows, most cyclists have multiple bikes for different jobs. So that really worked for us, and we kind of grew the business from that end. And I believe we've got around 70 products now from that one product. So it's a fairly big range.
Wonderful. And how many people are you working with now?
So we employ, I think it's 77 now. So it's quite a big team. Wow. So it was 22 around about 2 years ago. So we've had quite a big growth in the last 2 years. It's been a big drive to try, employ people, and obviously we're manufacturing everything in-house still. So about 95% of the products are made in our Leeds workshop, which obviously means buying machinery, getting skilled staff, training people, and a lot of the processes we've put in place, they're a little bit different. We've modified some of the machines that we use and stuff. So it's not even skill sets that you can just commonly come across. So we actually now have a training program in-house as well, because of how quick we've been growing. We've had to put a training program in to train people in the skills that we need. So so that's part of it. But it's quite a big team. Interesting place at the moment to work.
I can absolutely imagine. That's incredible. Right? So let me get this right, if I got it right. So you went from yourself and a sewing machine, and then 10 years you got to 22 people, and then from 22 to 70, over 70 in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it was a very long first 10 years. I think it was five years in. I think I was 3 people. So, I was doing it for quite a while by myself.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
So I'm going to come back to that a bit later on about the spark of that sort of very, very rapid growth. But I was talking to somebody earlier, and obviously growth comes with its own challenges. So obviously lack of growth has one sort of challenge, and growth comes with its own. What's some of the biggest challenges and issues that you've had to overcome over that time?
The big one's people. It's always the thing, it's finding the right people who are interested in the roles. We're in manufacturing. It's not the most glamorous industry a lot of the time, so it's not portrayed in that way. I think that what we do here, we have a lot of CNC cutter and 3D printing and lots of things that are exciting these days, but it's initially getting people involved in and getting excited about those processes. And a lot of it's sewing, so it's seen as a very old school industry, I suppose, with all skills and stuff. So that's been a big drive. We've been working with some colleges and stuff like that, and trying to get younger people excited about making things that it's a little less tech based than if you go into IT or software or something like that. But if you mind works in that way and you're a bit more hands-on, it can, you know, be just as exciting. Well, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, without doubt, because we're not all wired the same. So you know, techie is obviously one route, but I think I get this feeling that there are plenty of people out there that actually still like the idea of making things with our hands, and I guess it's finding them.
Yeah, and I think that is the big thing, is it's finding them, and it's also making people aware that, you know, it is a career path that's still available. I think in the UK, obviously, there is a lot of manufacturing in the UK. People think it's died off a bit, but you know, I visit a lot of factories for various processes and things that we need to do, and you know, you'd be amazed just probably in any town in the UK. There's a few manufacturers making something near you.
Yes, yeah, I completely agree, and you know, with the way the world is going, the more local we can develop things and manufacture things, the better. So great, it's great. I was literally just talking to somebody earlier about that. You know, they've got a manufacturing unit themselves, and they want to, you know, manufacture in Yorkshire. And I think that's a great thing to be doing.
Yeah, and I think we've been quite fortunate where, you know, a lot of people are moving that way now. They're realizing with shipping costs and import duties and everything else that's going on in the world, it's you know, it's not actually more expensive to produce locally anymore, or it's not as expensive.
Yeah.
So people are, you know, trying to produce more locally. I'm quite lucky where I've been doing that since day one. Not initially always out of choice, you know. When you're a one-man band, you don't have the option to go to a big factory. You can't hit minimum orders and things, so you just make do with what you can get your hands on at the time. So but because of that, you know, it's put us in a good position where I've just kind of expanded on that, and now, you know, we're 12 years into the business, we're sort of in a unique situation where we've got our own factory in the UK, and you know, about 70% of our supply is from the UK as well. So you know, we've got quite a good control on our supply chain. Brilliant.
And what do you think was the cause of the, you know, for where we say we've gone here over the 10, and then very much that, what were some of the things that have triggered that?
Yeah, well, we were growing, you know, about 150% year on year for the last sort of 5 or 6 years anyway. I think the trend in cycling and outdoor fitness and stuff was going. And then I think when COVID hit as well, that just sort of supercharged the whole trend, because there was a lot of people sitting around thinking, I need something to do. And, you know, your options were go for a walk, go for a run, or go for a bike ride. And that was it. And luckily we were in one of those sectors. So I think that's been a big push. We've heard, obviously, in the bike industry, there's some brands who, you know, they've got 2 and 3 year waiting lists on some components. So, you know, there's a big strain on the supply chain at the moment with cycling, which has its good sides and its bad sides. But, you know, the dip will come down at some point. But I think it's that, and I think it's also the combination of, you know, we uniquely positioned ourselves over years to, you know, buy the right machines, get the price point to where it needed to be, and it sort of a few things came together at the same time. We, you know, moved factory, we bought some high-tech machine, we found some good people who knew what they were doing in certain sectors, and it kind of, you know, the dots connected. Let's say, and it sort of it snowballed a little bit from there.
Brilliant. Well, I'm guessing over that period you must have learned quite a lot. What were some of the biggest learnings you'd say you've learned over that period of time?
It's a difficult one, because I think most people will know, if you start from the sort of ground up in a business, you kind of learn a bit of everything, you know, from the production to design to accounts to tax laws to shipping to, you know, whatever you need to at the time. So I think, you know, processes, sort of production processes, stuff like that's been a big one, you know, sort of how people interact and things. I'd say I'm quite interested in the machines and the process and stuff, so that it's easier when you're interested in that kind of stuff to learn it. The big thing's been like people managing and how to, you know, set up structures within a business. So you have like managers and they run people, and try not to do everything yourself, because when you've been hands-on from the beginning, you know, you've got to let go of some of the roles and put people you trust in those positions. So I'd say that's the biggest thing really, is the people aspect of it.
Yes, and people tend to be slightly more inconsistent than machinery, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
from a day-to-day perspective. So yeah, learning those skills is quite key. And who or what would you say have been some of the sort of biggest influences for you in your career so far?
It's a difficult one, really. I'd say probably a lot of it's quite local places, because I was quite lucky where probably about 5 or 6 years ago, as we were growing, we went from that sort of 3 people to 10 people. I kind of realised I wasn't really well suited for the job I was doing. I had, no experience. I started the business when I was 18, so I had no life experience in any other role or any structured business. So I just started contacting some local factories that were, 50 plus employees, and basically just ring them and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Can I come have a look at your place and see how you're doing it? And, you'd be amazed when you're early to mid 20s, people are very welcoming to open the door and show off, what they've done and what they've achieved, and share some of the secrets that, how they've got to where they've been. So a lot of it was that. I'm just, always trying to get out. I think talk to people, go see people's places. I think if you can pick up a little skill, even if it's just one from one place, it's got an added value to your business.
Yes, that's brilliant. I've spoken to quite a few. I'll be doing this, but in general, in what I do in business coaching, and I've spoken to quite a lot of successful people. And one of the common threads is the desire to help other people. And it's from the outside, it's not always the thing that you'd expect, that people are doing really well. Why would they have time? But I think most people will put a lot of their success to being helped by other people, and therefore are keen to help others. And it's a great. It's just great to see that happens on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think if people have been successful in business and so they're genuinely quite proud of their business, and they want to show it off and show you what they've done and how they've done it, and they're excited about it and a bit passionate about it. So I think that helps, and I think there's no harm in asking. At the end of the day, they can only say no.
Funny enough, yeah, absolutely correct.
Yeah.
One of my favourite phrases is if you don't ask, then the answer's always no. So it's we've got to ask. Coming on to which, I'm just interested. I love to pick up quotes and phrases that drive me forward and make a difference to me. And I wondered if there's any particular favourite quotes you've got, or sayings that you picked up over time that you come back to on a regular basis.
Not really, to be honest. Not ones that don't have swear words in them half the time. So yeah,
I'm sure we can manage your swear words.
But no, not particularly, to be honest. I think, like I said, we've had to be quite a fluid business in terms of we're growing so quick and changing. It's kind of anything we put in place or sayings we put in place seem to change within 6 months. So we kind of stop doing it because it causes issues with them. So yeah.
Well, I'm keen to know. Obviously, you've come on such a quick growth curve of what you've done. What are some of the things you've learned about yourself over that period?
I suppose just self-managing how I work. So I've gone from very hands-on to very computer-based. Like I probably have anywhere between 3 and 5 meetings every single day, and it's kind of learning how to structure those meetings, get what you want out of them, have an aim to them, and obviously follow up to complete something that you want to complete from that meeting. And it's a very different way of working for me. Usually you're hands-on. At the end of the day, you've got something to show for it. You go, oh, I've made this, and it's a physical thing. So I think that's been a big change for me, is kind of structuring. I've got lots of note systems and ways to note things and things to follow up on, and reminders, and using a calendar properly. Never used to do that. I just everything was when I got around to it, where now everything's very structured. So yeah, I think I've had to become a lot more structured person to run the size of the business that we've got, and you realize you don't have as much memory as you think you do. So everything is written down now, everything is noted somewhere. So yeah,
I'm afraid memory doesn't improve over time either. So
no, I've heard, yeah.
If you're struggling now, then just definitely get some tools in place for that one.
Yeah.
And So, I mean, I'm really fascinated now. So, you know, you're a relatively young guy. You've got this. You're on this growth curve. What does the future look like? What's your ultimate goals for the business?
So we're starting to work with some other local factories now, because we moved to a new factory in February. This is supposed to last us for the next sort of 3 years minimum, and within 6 months we realised it was too small. So we've been problem solving on how we up our production. So one big thing we've been doing is working with some of the local factories who, you know, within sort of the Yorkshire area, and starting to train them on some of our products, so we can still keep control over the quality control and stuff. Hopefully give them a bit of income and consistency and stuff as well, where they can grow their businesses, which ultimately gets more people in the sector, you know, with the skills that we need, and we do that. So our big drive is kind of to try, you know, help some of these other factories grow to a bit of a bigger scale as well. And we kind of have these satellite factories we use. It also helps them with filling gaps in production, because you'll find the majority of sewing factories in this country are sort of contract based, so they'll make, I don't know, bed sheets for the NHS, or you know, jackets for the police or something like that. And what happens is they go, we need 10,000 jackets and we need them in July, and then we don't need anything till December. And you know, it's very hard to run a business like that, because you're like, well, I need 100 people for July, and then I need 3 people until December, and you just can't pick up staff and let them go. So the big thing is like sort of leveling out your production. So, you know, changing that 10,000 into 1,000 every month, say, for instance, or something, which a lot of people can't do. So we've come along and said, well, we've got consistent products that are best sellers. So what we're doing now is we're outsourcing, and we're saying to the factories, you know, fill the gaps. If you've got 1,000 space in December, we'll take December, and we'll take April, and we'll take August, or whichever months. And that allows them to keep consistent staff, keep the machines turned on the lights all year round, and keep the skill levels in. So, you know, we're trying to put a plan together with a few factories like that, so they can expand at a comfortable level, upskill people they've got, and ultimately it'll add to the manufacturing sector and making stuff locally, which will benefit us in the long run as well, because we get, you know, more production at the same time.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, I'm trying to ask this in the right way, but that shows that feels like a hell of a lot of strategic vision. And I guess I'm interested, how much was that the plan, as you know, you could see this growth, or how much was it reactive? Because you know, we need both capabilities, don't we, as entrepreneurial people?
Yeah, a bit of both. So I think the thing is we were restricted by space where we were, so we had to come up with other solutions. But we were also very aware that, you know, at the moment the market fluctuates quite a lot with COVID and everyone getting into bikes, and it might drop down and stuff. So the people we have employed, we want to add a bit of security as well. So part of it is, you know, for wanting to expand the market, and part of it's also adds a bit of security for us for self reasons. You know, we've got a bit of flexible production that's outside this place that we can move a bit. So, you know, it's great for those factories. It's extra work. It's great for us because it's a bit flexible, so we can move it as and when. So it's a mixture of both. You know, the big thing is I'm quite passionate about getting people in and making things and stuff. I think it's, you know, a great career choice. I think there's a lot of people, like I said before, don't consider it, and I do think it's, you know, a job for life in a lot of these places if you want it to be, and there's a lot of opportunity. So yeah, I suppose it's for me, one side of it is I like that factor of it as well. I like the fact that we can build it, and it sort of works out financially from the business side as well. So it was kind of a win-win.
Brilliant. So I just think it's really great. I mean, everything you said, A, makes sense, B, you know, for you and for others, and B, is great for the local community. So I absolutely applaud you in doing so. So I'm still keen to understand, just from a sort of this kind of rapid growth perspective, if we were to have this conversation in 10 years' time, what do you think the business would look like then?
Well, it's a difficult one, because you can imagine from our forecasting, like it's we've kind of thrown forecasting out the window a little bit at the moment. So we always do this, you know. We've been dealing with a few consultants in certain areas, like some of our marketing stuff and things, because there's been a lot of the team in-house who've had to step up into roles that they're not necessarily skilled in. So, you know, we've had to get external people in to give them a bit of training in how they manage those sectors and stuff like that. So for us, we've been planning, now we plan 18 months at a time. That's what we've been planning until we can see a consistent string of data that we can forecast a bit further. Because, you know, I think it was 2020, we'd hit our year's target in the first 3 months. And then we were like, and then by month 9, we'd hit our 3-year target. So we were like, all of a sudden, you know, I'd spent a month, you know, putting together this very good strategy and business plan and everything. And within the first 9 months, the 3-year plan was out the window. So we kind of had to be a little bit more reactive in that sense, where we have a basic structure for the 18 months and where we'd like to be and things like that. I think ultimately, you know, we don't want to be huge 500 people or anything like that. You know, it's quite a close-knit group here. You know, I've got a lot of the people who work here are my mates who I used to cycle with and stuff. And just over the years, you know, they've had jobs here, and about 30% of the staff cycle. And, you know, we have riding events and, you know, we go away and shoot videos and stuff like that. So it's very hard to keep that sort of community feel if you get too big within a business. So, you know, it's not always down to choice growing. Sometimes it is demand. You know, there's various competitors and people are trying to take market space and stuff. So you're sort of forced into some sectors of things. So I think, you know, we will continue to grow, and I think our numbers show that. But, you know, it's just how we do it sensibly, responsibly, and, you know, don't become a bit of a monster that no one wants to work at or be at. So, yeah.
And how are you managing the demands on your time? I know. My first business, we got up to 100 or so people and sort of 12 million turnover, and it was quite significant. And I'd be perfectly frank, I didn't know how to manage my time effectively. So it was a real, that was the victim of that success, if you like.
Yeah, so I think it is hard because I think you sort of backtrack a lot and you go over the same things a lot, because you kind of like, you know, you'll have a note system or a calendar, and you kind of every 10 minutes it feels like you're checking these things like, what's my next job, and do that. And you know, you have to be careful not to spend too much time organizing and not doing. So I think that's the key thing for me. I always, like, each week I try to outline some objectives that I want to tick off that week, and I just make sure that I at least do those. And if the other half of the time I'm faffing about or, you know, messing about with something, at least I can look back and go, well, I've achieved those things this week. But I'd say as you get bigger, you just got to break it down into the segments of your business. So, you know, I've got, you know, we've technically got 2 businesses in a way here, because we're making the stuff, but then we've got the front end where we're selling, and we've got marketing and social media and sales and everything else. And then we've got production and production managers and workflows in the production. So I kind of break them down into the segments that I find important in the business. And every week I at least work on one thing that I want to achieve in each segment of the business. And that's kind of, it works most weeks, not all weeks. Some weeks you add more to the list than you tick off, but, you know, and that's that part of it.
Oh, mate, that's a function of what you're doing at the moment. I would think that growth's bound to have that effect on you sometimes. So just keep, you know, doing that and achieving that on a regular, but not necessarily, you know, permanent basis is great. So other than that, what other challenges do you see with the growth that you're experiencing and the future plans that you're making?
Well, as I said, production, supply chain, you know, we're starting to get to the point, as for we're an island, and there's certain products that you can't get in this country. You know, we're supply of certain products is becoming an issue. We're trying to outweigh that by overstocking in certain areas and stuff, but sometimes you can't account for everything. As I said, staffing as well. You know, if we keep going on the way that we're going, it's trying to find them, and then it's even things like, you know, we've got so many machines here, as you start needing engineers and things like that. So it's you know, we're in the next level where there's almost jobs for maintenance people and stuff as well. So yeah, I'd say we're quite fortunate where I feel like, because we had a move in February, and then we grew about 300% or something in a year. We had, if you spoke to me in February, I had about 100 battles I was battling, and now I feel like I've got about 10 maybe that I'm doing, but they're not as major as they were. So I feel like we're in quite a good place moving forward, and we finally, got structure in the business, and great pay grades and things like this that are a little more finer detail stuff when you've got that amount of employees. So I feel, talk to me next week. There might be more. There'll be another challenge. The roof will fall down or something. Yeah.
Well, I was told a long time ago by the CEO of my organisation, and he said the job of a business owner is to solve problems. So if you don't like problems, get out of business. So and I would suggest I've learned from that actually growth creates problems. So it's like, probably if I'm dealing with problems, it's probably because we're growing. So I've learned to sort of rationalize that myself, that problems are great.
Well, I think that's the thing, is it gets boring if you don't have the problems to resolve, or maybe it's a sign of maybe going in the wrong direction if there isn't any problems. So it's what keeps it interesting, exciting. You've got a problem solve.
Definitely. So I'm really interested in and thank you for what we talked about so far. So a couple of sort of final questions. One is, I'm really interested in the next couple of questions, but what would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in business right now, to be honest. I think it's the one time where, there's big issues in supply chains, and the big companies can't get their products to where they need to go, and that there are big gaps in things, and people aren't all of a sudden expecting everything to be done tomorrow. So, people seem to be a little bit more patient at the moment. They'll wait, they're a little bit more switched on to where stuff's coming from or who they're spending their money with. So I actually think it's a great time to get into business, because you're not, having to sell small business to people at the moment. People want to buy into a small business. So I think as long as you find a gap in the market and a good idea, it should be relatively okay to get into. I'm not going to say easy, but
no, but great point. I've not thought about it in that way before. The fact that it's a small business, people are open to that. They are looking for solutions. They're looking for solutions for wherever they might come.
Yeah, and the other thing is as well, stuff to start up a business now, there's a lot more funding and free help out there and things than there ever was. When I first started, I started actually with a loan from the Princess Trust. That was one of the things when I was younger, and it was like £1,800 loan, and that was a massive amount of money to me at the time. And things, but that was pretty much the only thing I could find 12 years ago. A few other council things and stuff, but you had to jump through so many hoops. It was more work than what it was worth. Where now there seems to be tons of funding towards people training you and teaching you, and grants and support and all that kind of stuff as well. So there's a lot out there if you look.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with that. And so the last question is what would you say, what advice would you give to an 18-year-old you?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. Probably a lot. So I think it is that find people who know what they're doing, sooner, and try learn some stuff from them. I think it took me quite a few years to learn that I can skip a few years of trying to learn it by myself if I just went to someone who was doing it and go, how do you do that? It's I think that's what took me a long time to figure out. So I think, just reach out and try and get advice. If you don't know something, ask someone who does know it.
Brilliant advice. And and as you said, that's exactly what you did at the start. And I think just great, because I suspect not enough people do that. And so hearing this, I hope that drives people forward to just go and ask. And as I said, I've met quite a few people that they're more than willing, in fact actively want to help people achieve, and so it's most likely you're going to get a positive response than a negative response, I would believe.
Yeah, don't be scared of not knowing. You know, I think that's the big thing. Is I don't know everything in business. I'm still learning every day. So, there's nothing wrong with going in and going, I don't know what that means, or I don't know what that word means, or what that term means, or anything. Can you tell me? So, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, look, Nathan, that's been absolute delight to listen to your story, and I have to say, congratulations on all the successes you've had. Is there any final thoughts that you've got from what we've discussed so far? Anything else that comes to mind?
Put me on the spot now. I'm trying to think of anything else
Definitely.
that we've missed out on. No particular. I think it's. Like I said, it's just trying to get people involved in sort of the manufacturing side. And, I do think starting business is a great and exciting opportunity for a lot of people. And I think it is just taking those first few steps and asking a lot of questions, that will get you into it to start with. But no, apart from that, like I said, is, I'm always open as well. Anyone who's listening to this wants to drop me an email or anything like that, ask any other questions that we may have missed out, then, I'm always open to chat.
Thank you. That's a very, very kind offer, and obviously is, backed by the secret of your success. Go and ask. So it's great you want to pay it forward and pay it back to other people. So, but on that note, really, thank you for taking your time. You must be a busy guy with everything that's going on. So thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. Thanks very much, Chris.
Cheers.
Cheers.